The world watches with bated breath as reports suggest that US could launch an attack on Iran as early as February 21. Donald Trump has reportedly been briefed on operational readiness, according to CNN and CBS reports. During the Midnight Hammer operation in June last year, the goal was Iran's nuclear facilities. But this time, the goal has shifted. It is scary and gripped with huge ramifications, poised to send political earthquake across the globe. US President Donald Trump wants a regime change in Iran. According to the Wall Street Journal, Trump has received several briefings on his military options should he choose to strike, all of them designed to maximize damage to Iran's regime and its regional proxies. The options include a campaign to kill scores of Iranian political and military leaders with the goal of overthrowing the government, US and foreign officials said, as well as an air attack would be limited to striking targets, including nuclear and ballistic missile facilities. Both would involve a potentially weeks-long operation. A senior Trump administration official told the Wall Street Journal that the US president hasn't yet decided whether to order strikes against Iran. His national security advisors discussed Iran during a meeting in the White House's Situation Room on Wednesday.
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people, of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are, and this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously.
Since coming back to power for the second time, Donald Trump's leadership has been marked by various displays of force, showing how the United States has increasingly relied on hardline diplomacy toward both adversaries and allies. This time, the scale of military deployment is significant. The US has assembled fighter jets and support aircraft to the Middle East, the greatest amount of air power in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. At the center of the escalating tensions lies the long-running nuclear dispute. Washington and Tehran have held intermittent talks. Discussions in Geneva earlier this week aimed to avert US military intervention, with Iran stating afterwards that both sides had agreed on guiding principles for a deal. Iran is expected to retaliate in the event of an attack. In response to US buildup, Iran has shown its force. On Monday, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, launched a maritime drill in the Strait of Hormuz, located in the Gulf between Oman and Iran. The strait is considered a vital international waterway and oil export route from Gulf Arab states. Iran issued a notice to airmen as it is planning rocket launches in areas across its south on Thursday from 3:30 GMT to 13:30 GMT. Iran's message is also clear. One wrong move and the world will face ripple effects.
There's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran.
The United States could launch military strikes on Iran as soon as Saturday. That stark warning, first reported by CBS News, cites senior national security officials who say President Donald Trump has been told American forces are ready to act within days. But despite the military's readiness, the president has not yet made a final decision. According to officials speaking on condition of anonymity, conversations inside the White House are fluid and ongoing, with risks of escalation being weighed against the consequences of restraint.
Sources say top advisors have presented options for strikes that could begin as early as Saturday, though the timeline may ultimately extend beyond the weekend. Behind the scenes, the Pentagon is already repositioning personnel across the Middle East. Multiple officials confirm that some American personnel are being temporarily relocated to Europe or back to the United States as a precautionary measure. The move is designed to protect U.S. forces in the event Iran retaliates if strikes are authorized. One official stressed that shifting assets before potential military activity is standard Pentagon practice and does not automatically signal that an attack is imminent. Still, the optics are unmistakable. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is already operating in the region. A second carrier group, led by the USS Gerald R. Ford, is en route to the Middle East. As of Wednesday, maritime tracking data placed the Ford off the coast of West Africa, moving steadily toward theater. The show of force has not gone unnoticed in Tehran. Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, posted an AI-generated image depicting the Ford resting on the ocean floor. In a message shared on X, Khamenei warned that while American warships are dangerous, more dangerous still are the weapons capable of sending them to the bottom of the sea. The rhetoric underscores the volatility of this moment. Diplomacy, however, has not entirely collapsed. Iranian and American negotiators met for mediated nuclear talks in Geneva, Switzerland, earlier this week. The discussions lasted several hours. The Trump administration acknowledged that some progress was made. But at a White House briefing, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt cautioned that the two sides remain far apart on key issues. She said there are many arguments that could be made in favor of a strike against Iran, yet emphasized that diplomacy remains the president's preferred course. Leavitt declined to confirm whether any potential strike would be coordinated with Israel.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for military secrets here, but can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people. Of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people, and that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
As the U.S. military builds up around Iran, is President Trump coordinating war plans with Israel so that if he does decide to strike, that Israel will be a part of those strikes?
Look, I don't have any specifics on the president's recent conversations with Israel. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu was just here at the White House last week or the week before. But again, with respect to Iran, there was some progress made yesterday. There are still a lot of details to discuss, and we'll continue to see how this plays out. The United States government, of course, is always in close communication and correspondence with the state of Israel, and that starts right at the top with the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu themselves.
Is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little further? And where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks, and so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Caroline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the President of the United States from up
And then
here.
just
Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to visit Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in approximately 2 weeks for further consultations. The White House has also pointed to what it described as a successful operation in June targeting Iran's nuclear facilities, signaling that military options are neither theoretical nor unprecedented. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance confirms he spoke with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff today about high-stakes negotiations with Iran. Vance laid it out straight. America's red lines are non-negotiable. First and foremost, blocking any path to an Iranian nuclear weapon.
And actually, I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations. The United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, there are a lot of other regimes, some friendly, some not so friendly, who would get nuclear weapons after them. That would be a disaster for the American people, because then you have these crazy regimes all over the world with the most dangerous weapons in the world, and that's one of the things the president has said he's going to prevent. Now, we would very much like, as the president has said, to resolve this through a conversation and a diplomatic negotiation, but the president has all options on the table. And, one thing about the negotiation I will say this morning is, in some ways it went well. They agreed to meet afterwards, but in other ways it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So we're going to keep on working it, but of course the president reserves the ability to say when he thinks that diplomacy has reached its natural end. We hope we don't get to that point, but if we do, that'll be the president's call.
Well, the president said on
to appreciate it's one of the most hostile and also one of the most irrational regimes in the world. You can't have people like that have the most dangerous weapon known to man. It would be awful for our security. It would be awful for the future of our children. Look, everything is on the table. We certainly want Iran to stop being a state sponsor of terrorism. They're one of the world's largest state sponsors of terrorism. There are a lot of ways in which they endanger America's national security, but the most important way they could is if they acquired a nuclear weapon, and that is the red line the President of the United States has consistently said.
Iran has been urged to return to negotiations with greater clarity in the coming weeks. No date has yet been set for follow-up talks. As Washington deliberates, the stakes are enormous. A strike could reshape the security landscape of the Middle East overnight. Retaliation could ignite regional proxies and threaten global energy flows. Markets are watching, allies are calculating, adversaries are signaling resolve. At this hour, no order has been given, but forces are moving, warships are sailing, diplomats are talking, and the clock towards Saturday is ticking.